Hello and welcome to Traditional Painting the Digital Way. This is where I use digital painting apps to teach traditional painting techniques. In this video, we're going to be doing a painting that I did for Inktober. And although I did this one digitally, you can follow along with watercolor and ink if you want to go ahead and do this traditionally. The app that I use to do this is Infinite Painter for Android. Now, if you want to follow along traditionally, here's some watercolors. You can use pan watercolors. I like to use the watercolor brush just because you can feel water in that kind of a brush. And then here I've got some ink pens. Now, you can use dip pens. You can use all kinds of different sort of ink pens. You can also use any kind of watercolor that you want. You might want more of a expensive watercolor, or you might want sort of a student grade watercolor if you're just doing this in your journal and it's not going to be exposed to sunlight. So here I wanted to make myself a photo reference for this. And so I've gone on Pixabay and I found some sketches of a mushroom toadstool, and I decided to use the Infinite Painter app to just make my photo reference, and I overlaid one mushroom on top of the other in two different layers, and then I've erased the parts that I want to keep of the mushroom, and I've I've kept the parts that I want to keep of the mushroom and erase the other parts. And you can do this with putting them on separate layers and just using the eraser function in Infinite Painter. And so this is the shape of the mushroom that I wanted. And then I'm going to go ahead and add the eye to it. I also found a picture of an eye that was sketched on Pixabay, where you can get royalty-free photos, and so I'm just going in and putting it on another layer and then just erasing around it and making it look like it's drawn on there, and then that gives me my photo reference. And I just wanted to do it that way instead of sketching it out a thin air. I kind of wanted some references to see how you would draw lines and ink on when you're doing a mushroom. And I sort of got this idea from a porcelain figure that you can buy on the internet, and they had it out for Halloween, and I really liked it and managed to get one, and so I decided I wanted to go ahead and draw a version of it. And so here I'm kind of doing a background of multicolors, kind of like leaves and grass. I just want it to look indistinct, though. I don't want it to be a real detailed in the background. And I also got some pictures on Pixabay for photo references of how a real mushroom looks as well, because I wanted to get the colors. And so here I'm using some of the watercolor brushes on Infinite Painter, and I'm going to blend them in. I'm using the blending brushes set on the watercolor brushes too. And then here I'm putting in a little bit of using one of the watercolor brushes to kind of get the grass-like texture that the mushrooms are growing in. And I wanted to add some greens and browns for it, and you can use light colored, spring colored greens and darker greens, and throw in a little bit of brown and some orange, just kind of like the background. But for the ground, I'm making horizontal strokes so that it looks like it's a carpet of grass. And then I want to just go ahead and sketch on another layer the mushroom shape. And if you're doing this traditionally, you might want to go ahead and do your sketch first with a pencil, but just really light, so that it doesn't smear when you put the watercolor on. And so here I'm just kind of drawing it in, and I decided I wanted the eye a little bit further down on my drawing, so I used the lasso tool in Infinite Painter, which is really handy, the lasso tool and the transform tool. And it just kind of helps you correct your drawing. If you're following along traditionally, you would just very lightly erase. Make the light pencil lines and then lightly erase it so that it won't mess up your watercolor paper. And you can use either cold press watercolor paper or hot press. Just hot press is smoother, cold press has more texture and is rougher. Just depends on what you want for your look. And here I'm just kind of sketching out the bottom of the mushroom, and I'm not going to add a whole lot of detail on the ground. I just wanted a little bit of some tufts of grass growing up around it just to kind of settle it down and make it look like it's not floating or anything like that. And so here I'm just kind of sketching the eye and refining the shape and making it look like it's got an eyelid and an eyeball. And I just thought it was funny, the mushroom with the eye, so that's why I did it. I just it caught my fancy, I guess. I like oddities like that, so this is going to be one of my series that I'm going to start calling Ellie's Oddities, because I like all these odd little things. And I'm going to do some more things based on figurines that I've collected and altered or whatever, and made to look like I want them to. And so there's going to be more of that in a series coming, in more furthermore in this series. And so I'm just working on the eye. I was trying to get it a little bit rounder looking in the eyelid, just to get a more circle shape so that it doesn't look quite so lopsided. I wanted the eyelid look there, and so I'm just using the arc tool in Infinite Painter. And if you're following along traditionally, you can use a bottle cap lid or a plate, or just depending on how big your picture is. And then here I went ahead and saved it, because I'm using the beta version and sometimes it's unstable, so you definitely have to save frequently and save anyway, because when you're working digitally, you never know when the program's going to crash, whether it's in beta or not. And then here I wanted to make this a red mushroom, so I went ahead and added some light red color, probably cadmium red. I'm not sure what it would be depending on your watercolor brand. They have different names for all these colors, but I'm still working with the watercolor brushes in Infinite Painter. And I added some a little bit of darker red on the top. It's more of an orangish red on the bottom, and I just wanted to kind of give that a different variation of color on the top. And then I wanted to go ahead and add a little bit of some white color on the bottom. And if you're doing this traditionally, you can either use resist, where you don't paint over where it's a little coating that keeps the paper white, and then it's kind of like rubber cement, and then you rub it off and the paper below is white. You can either add that on there to preserve your white parts, or you can just use some gouache. And sometimes you can also get a white watercolor that's thick enough that it will sort of make a gouache like paint also, and just put that on the areas that you want to be lighter. And gouache is just kind of a thicker watercolor. So I'm doing that on the stem, on the underside there, and then here I'm blending it in using the Infinite Painter blend tool. And I kind of wanted the shadows to be a little bit purplish and purple and gray, and then I'm working on the eye, and I want the white of the eye to be really light. And so if you're following along traditionally, you should probably use gouache for that to get a really bright highlight. And then I wanted to paint the eyeball blue just because it's really bright, and it makes a really good contrast against the orangish background, because blue and orange are color complements. And so I wanted to go ahead and put those together. And so this is the end of part 1 of my Ellie's Oddities mushroom, and I'm going to finish it out in part 2. So if you want to see how I finished it out, stick around and hit the subscribe button. Thanks everybody for watching. Thank you so much for your support. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments down below, and I'll catch you later.